So we're still more than a year away from the 2020 elections, but GOP retirements are beginning to mount, with 11 Republicans already announcing that they will not run for re-election to the House. Now, there are 4 retirements in Texas alone, where Democrats are vowing to go on offense. So do they have a chance to turn the Lone Star State blue in 2020? Let's ask Fox News contributor, Wall Street Journal columnist Karl Rove. He served as a senior advisor to President George W. Bush. Good to see you, Karl. So, Real Clear Politics had an article today. Yes, the GOP should worry about Texas. Are you worried about Texas?
Yes, I am. I'm not as worried about 2020, but I'm worried about complacency that could lead Texas to fall out of the Republican column unless the Republicans get reactivated in Texas. Look, the article in Real Clear Politics is pretty darn good. If you take a look at it, John McCain carried the state in 2008. Now, remember, that's the height of the financial crisis, and he carries the state by nearly 12 points.
Wow.
In 2012, Mitt Romney gets defeated nationwide by Barack Obama in the re-election, but carries the state by nearly 16. And in 2016, Donald Trump carries the state by 9 points. So the Republicans had better be careful about it, because that's not a good trend line. If we do better in 2008 than we did in 2016, it says something about the state. Now, the good news is Republicans have gotten motivated. They lost 9 seats in the state House. They lost 2 seats in the state Senate. They lost 2 seats in the Congress in 2018. And as a result, you're seeing them finally wake up, realize they've become complacent over the last decade. And as a result, there are gigantic efforts underway aimed at voter registration and reinvigoration of the Republican volunteer base. And the good news for Republicans is next year our state ticket will be led by Senator John Cornyn, who's enormously well-respected and has helped lead an effort over the last several years to reinvigorate the GOP in Texas.
But, you know, one thing that article mentions is something's maybe beyond the control of the party faithful here. The citification of Texas, Texas turning from a rural state into one that is more citified than it used to be, certainly, and growing in that direction. Cities have a tendency to trend Democratic. There's nothing you can really do about that, is there?
Yeah, we have exactly. Well, there are, but you're right. Right now, we have 2 things going on in Texas. The cities are becoming more Democrat, and rural and small town Texas becoming more Republican. The question is, are the Republicans going to go out there and register those people? We're a dynamic, growing state. We're going to double in population in the next 25 years. And are Republicans going to go out there and engage in the grassroots activity of registering Republicans? There are over 1 million people in Texas today who are either known to be Republicans at their previous address, or whom micro-targeting the profile of those people shows they're absolutely certain to be Republicans, and yet they're not registered to vote. And if you look at the history of Texas, the modern history of Texas, the Republicans, they were still hunting us with dogs in 1978 when we elected our first Republican governor in over 100 years. And the way that the Republicans won that election, and what they did every 2 years thereafter for the next 20-some-odd years, was run massive volunteer get-out-the-vote and persuasion efforts, and we gotten away from that. Once we got in the majority, we started to get away from that.
I thought you still hunted with dogs. That's news to me.
I do. I do. I hunt over the dogs, but I'm not hunted with dogs like when I moved to Texas. I was the only Republican political consultant in Austin, Texas back then. It was an awful lonely time.
Yeah, I bet it was. Well, let's bring it out to the nation as a whole, because I'm curious about the states that Donald Trump turned red, like Pennsylvania, like Ohio, like Michigan. Is there any chance that those are in danger of going blue?
Well, absolutely. Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, which he won by less than 1%. I think that's different than Ohio. Ohio seems to me to be trending more red, not more purple. But absolutely, he's got to worry about Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. He's also got to worry about North Carolina. And my sense is, from talking to people inside the Trump campaign, they're concerned about North Carolina. Yeah. They're reasonably comfortable, but they know they can't take anything for granted in Texas, or excuse me, in Florida. They're worried about Iowa, which was a state that he flipped from 2012 to 2016. But they're looking for opportunities. New Mexico, maybe Colorado, Minnesota, New Hampshire, Nevada, where they came in close.
Right.
But yeah, they've got every reason. Politics never stays static, and so they're smart to be concerned about
Karl,
the states that they want.
I don't want to let this segment go go by without talking about the shootings and more the reaction to the shootings that we've seen this week. It's a week of mourning, and we've had some serious mourning going on, consoling. That's been good. But the unprecedented attacks on the President of the United States by the opposing party, suggesting that he is directly responsible for these attacks. Your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I was taken aback. I mean, it seems the more struggling the Democratic presidential candidate was, the more outrageous their words. But you use the word responsible. We heard that from Cory Booker. We heard that from Pete Buttigieg. We heard it from Robert Francis O'Rourke. We heard it from Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, all using the word to basically accuse the president of being an accomplice in the murders in El Paso and in Dayton, Ohio. And, that is really over the top. I think the Democrats have made a mistake because that's not going to get the swing voters who are up for grabs in this election to their side. But more important than that, it's poisoning our politics even more than it is. Yeah. Our politics is broken, and it does absolutely no good for people to go out there and say, as Robert Francis O'Rourke and others have done, that the president is a white supremacist or a racial bigot, that he's a racist, and that he has a direct responsibility for the people who pulled the triggers in those two towns. Would we say the same of Bernie Sanders? After all, a supporter of his was the guy who tried to kill the Republican House and Senate members at their baseball practice a couple years ago.
And of course, the Ohio shooter was a leftist,
right?
Too,
A self-described leftist, and a
make
fan
any
of
sense of his mind. All right,
absolutely.
Karl, we got to leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us.
Bet.
Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.